My experience watching The Substance in theaters can only parallel how viewers must have felt that winter day in Paris in 1895 as they watched the work of the Lumiere brothers and the realization that what they were watching was the birth of cinema. Welcome to Silver Screen Queens, a deep dive into the portrayal of women on screen from the start of moving image to now. Does a character reveal a hidden meaning? What was a director's intent when portraying a character? Does an actress's life experience limit or shape the role that they play? We'll answer it all here on Silver Screen Queens. Warning, there are spoilers in today's episode. The Substance opens on a bird's eye, time-lapse-esque shot of a Hollywood Walk of Fame star being erected, walked over, and subsequently cracked over time, a metaphor for the movie's main character, Elizabeth Sparkle. Sparkle, played by the wonderful Demi Moore, is an actress past her prime who gets let go from being host of an aerobics workout program in place of someone younger. Struggling with this change, Sparkle turns to a black market drug that claims to make all her problems go away and reveal a younger, better version of herself. Critiques of Hollywood's treatment of aging women is not a revolutionary topic for a movie. Movies like Whatever Happened to Baby Jane and Sunset Boulevard touched on this theme long before the Substance director Coralie Fargeat was even born. However, Fargeat successfully combines the trope of an aging actress within a body horror movie, and the result is a pseudo-monster movie that twists the idea of the male gaze on its head. The term male gaze was coined by film critic Laura Mulvey in her essay Visual Pleasure and Narrative Cinema to describe the way women are portrayed in art to be pleasing to a male viewer. This term has gained resurgence in mainstream media. If you look on TikTok in the search bar and type in male gaze, videos will pop up debating whether you're dressing and or doing your makeup for the male gaze or the female gaze. After Elizabeth injects herself with the substance for the first time, her other self, played by the beautiful, wonderful Margaret Qualley, emerges from Elizabeth's spine. Sue, as she will be named, comes to on the bathroom floor, stumbles to the mirror, and wipes the condensation off to reveal the new, younger version of herself. The cinematography in this scene is very intentional. The camera pans down as Sue feels her new breasts and her stomach. The camera work for Sue remains pretty consistently like this until she starts to literally fall apart. Her workout show, Pump It Up with Sue, utilizes close-up shots of her butt outfitted in tight, pink, sparkly spandex and shots of her thrusting while looking into the camera. As the workout show is being filmed, we get shots of the camera lens expanding and contracting, seeming to expand on certain sultry moments and contract when there's a cut or something happens. Almost like eyes widening. Fargeat caters to the male gaze with Sue, but then quickly pulls the rug out from under it, with the facade of Sue fading as she begins to fall apart. Her ear falls off, her nails fall off. It's crazy. Remember, you are one. Elizabeth is Sue, and Sue is Elizabeth. But in a particularly moving scene, Elizabeth is getting ready for a date, but she keeps going back to the bathroom to fix her makeup and her outfit. Every time she appears to be ready to leave, she's reminded of the gigantic billboard of Sue right outside her window, watching her like the eyes of Dr. T.J. Ecclesburg in The Great Gatsby, judging her. Though Sue is a part of Elizabeth, Elizabeth somehow thinks Sue is more deserving. Already late for the date, she goes back to the bathroom to apply some more bright red lipstick, only to rub it all over her face, smearing red everywhere, ruining her hair, and running her mascara. In an interview with CBS News, Demi Moore said, "Some days I look and I'm like, wow, that's pretty good. And some days I kept myself dissecting, hyper-focusing on, the things that I don't like. The difference is now I can catch myself. I can go, yeah, I don't like that loose skin, but it is what it is. So I'm going to make the best of what it is, as opposed to chasing what isn't." Demi Moore's reality shaped her performance as Elizabeth Sparkle, and the result is a career-making performance. And yes, I've seen the 1990 hit movie ghost. Demi, like most actresses, has been scrutinized and judged for her appearance for her entire career. Her marriage to Ashton Kutcher and their 15-year age gap sparked tabloid frenzy, with people speculating what work she had done, some even saying she got a knee lift. When Demi was in her 40s and starred in the movie Charlie's Angels Full Throttle, she received a ton of criticism about her body, specifically for a particular bikini scene in that movie. Because of this, Demi started questioning if she even had a place in Hollywood anymore. For much of cinema's history, men have used the camera to visualize their fantasies. Nudity is present throughout this film and starts out as seductive in the case of Sue and vulnerable in the case of Elizabeth Sparkle. Coralie Fargeat said about the nudity in the film, "For me, it was super important. For the nudity scenes, I really needed and wanted to spend time to explain to them all the shots and what they were meaning, because I think that was the most important, the beating heart of the scene." When Elizabeth stands naked in front of the mirror, the camera work is second to her look of vulnerability as she stares at her own reflection. When Sue begins overusing the stabilizer, aka Elizabeth's spinal fluid, Elizabeth comes to each time to find that her aging has rapidly progressed. But still, the nudity prevails. Of course, it seems that Elizabeth has aged past any realistic human age, so the prosthetics are exaggerated. Seeing this compared to Elizabeth's nudity at the start of the movie, you can't help but feel a deep sadness. She was so beautiful already, and the look she gave herself in the mirror before she injected the substance for the first time was one of shame. Who along the way has told us that our bodies need to be changed, to be altered, and at what cost? What are you drinking? Well, we have one drink on the menu, but I'm sure we can work something out. On the menu tonight is a Midori Sour, because look at the color of this. Okay. That is radioactive. Okay. One shot going in here. I'm not a bartender. I'm just a girl. I don't know if that's too much. ASMR. It's spilling everywhere. I spilled it on the floor. To top it all off. To top it all off, some soda water. And the final touch, a syringe. Cheers. Oh my God, it's so sweet. Tastes like candy. This is definitely a love it or hate it movie. If you're not a fan of body horror, you might not like this one. I consider myself not easily squeamish, but there were points in this movie where my stomach was turning. Reviews of the substance were overwhelmingly positive, I would say. It's getting rave reviews. But there are two negative reviews in particular that I feel compelled to discuss. Dana Stevens from The Slate says, "After 2 hours and 20 minutes of flamboyantly repulsive variations on this well-worn theme, even the strongest stomached and most feminist of viewers could be excused for muttering, 'We get it already.'" Who is we? If it's me and you, sure, we get it. But that statement casts a very wide net and comes across as, well, get over it. To insinuate that understanding a subject means there shouldn't be art created about it is wrong when you look at art as a whole. Many themes and ideas have been fleshed out, revisited, cut up and pasted back together. You never hear someone say, "Oh my God, another superhero movie, we get it already." Emily Gould from The Cut said, "The process of aging naturally is disgusting," the movie seems to be saying, and of course the audience agrees. But pushing that cultural dictate to its most outlandish extremes seems ultimately superfluous when the truth is already horrific enough. I don't believe the substance is trying to make a mockery out of the pressures women face in regards to the beauty standards. When Sue, in a moment of desperation, uses the one-time only use activator, please throw away after use, the result is monstro Eliza Sue, which emerges from her spine. I don't believe that this character that appears at the end of the movie is making a mockery of the pressures women face in regards to the beauty standards. I think it's a personification of that fear. It's not saying that aging naturally is disgusting, but that societal standards deem it disgusting. Fargeat wrote the script for The Substance after she turned 40, saying, "I had these massive thoughts that I had reached the age where I wasn't going to be useful or interesting to anyone anymore, The violence of those thoughts was so strong that I had to do something about it. Otherwise, it would totally destroy and crush me. Which is a very similar sentiment to the one I said before that Demi Moore gave. Gould's review is strikingly similar to reviews of the 1962 movie Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, deemed a hagsploitation or psycho-biddy film, a genre that features formerly glamorous or famous women that become mentally unstable. Thomas Hobbs from the BBC writes about Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. The film peddles the harmful stereotype that an aging woman unable to gain the security of marriage is practically worthless, and she will subsequently harbor an uncontrollable rage that will go on to define her life. I will do a whole other episode on Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, but I think there is a very clear connection between these two films. In Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, Bette Davis and Joan Crawford play siblings, both former child actors who are stuck in their old Hollywood mansion. Perhaps it was director Robert Aldrich's intention to make a mockery of aging women and pit two actresses at the end of their careers against each other who already had a tumultuous relationship. But as a viewer, I walked away from Whatever Happened to Baby Jane not feeling sad for the woman I saw on screen, but feeling happy they were even there at all. Jack Warner, president of Warner Brothers, was quoted as saying, "I wouldn't give you a dime for those two washed up old bitches," in response to the prospect of Joan Crawford and Bette Davis starring in this movie, a movie that ended up being a box office hit. Horror is a genre that doesn't often portray older women as the main characters. For much of the genre's history, its main characters have been fresh-faced final girls, innocent and pure. It seems as if we are reclaiming horror to express a woman's fears, frustrations, and anger, an emotion we are told far too often to suppress. Most horror movies throughout history have used the aging body as a point of fear, as a jump scare in a movie. But I don't believe the substance is doing that. As monstrous Eliza Sue stands on stage at the New Year's Eve show and gives her speech, a breast is seen emerging from her head, and the audience starts to squirm in disgust. Breast imagery is very present in this movie, a body part that men so often gawk at. As the movie progresses, we see breasts become less and less, quote, appealing. First they sag, and then they become an excrement of a monster. As the audience begins to erupt in screams, monstrous Eliza Sue chants, "It's me, it's me." The end scene features monstrous Eliza Sue getting attacked by men, only to regrow her chopped off head and spray blood from her chopped off arm all over the theater. You can't watch this scene without being reminded of the prom scene in Carrie. If you aren't familiar with the movie, Carrie gets up to accept her crown as prom queen, and pig's blood gets poured all over her. Using her kinetic abilities, she disconnects the fire hose and sprays the students in the gymnasium who are laughing at her misfortune. In the substance, the fire hose is replaced by monstrous Eliza Sue's arm, which douses the audience of the theater in her own blood. Throughout Carrie, blood is seen as an extension of her menstruation. In her essay, Horror, Femininity, and Carrie's Monstrous Puberty, Shelley Stamp says, "Carrie's adolescent body becomes the site upon which monster and victim converge." In the substance, monster and victim quite literally converge, with Elizabeth Sparkle's face growing out of monstrous Eliza Sue's back. And blood in the substance seems to be an extension of menstruation, something that is taboo and considered gross. Women are taught that our worth is dependent on our appearances, that our attractiveness is our best and most valued quality. This movie felt refreshing to me because it was an exaggeration of frustration over that teaching. When monstrous Eliza Sue appears, the phrase that kept ringing in my head was, "You created a monster." She doesn't represent what the reviews I mentioned above would lead you to believe, that she is saying that aging naturally is bad. She is a physical representation of a culmination of all the beauty standards mushed together into one being. Imagine if we followed all the beauty standards, all the advice, dating back from the beginning of time to now. We would look like a monster too. It's always contradicting itself. It's always different. It's always changing. Demi Moore pretty much summed it up when she said about shooting the movie, "It was great to show up and be allowed to look bad." Thank you for tuning in to the first episode of Silver Screen Queens. New episodes will be out every Sunday on Spotify with accompanying YouTube videos out every other week. Again, thank you, and that's all, folks.